Executives don't get an A for effort. They don't get to keep their jobs because they're trying. They're either effective in their role or they're not. The confetti moment at Carta has a lot of lore. I think we built Carta X thinking we were doing the Henry Ford thing. We were building cars in a world of horses. I'm always just like, what is the impact that you want to drive in the world? And as product builders, we have such an opportunity.
Welcome back to Get the Check. I'm Priya.
I'm Annika.
And today we have Vrushali with us.
Hello.
Vrushali is the Chief Product Officer of Carta. We're so excited to have you with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Carta is a platform that helps startups, investors, and employees manage equity, cap tables, valuations, and is truly a key player in the private space. And so that's awesome to see you streamlining both equity and fund management. So before we get more into Carta and what Carta does, we want to hear a little bit more about your story.
Great.
So product management is a super common career that we hear about now, but that wasn't always the case. And so would love to hear how you got started in product and kind of how you found your place within product management.
Great question. I wish I knew that product was an option for me in college. It would have been my dream job. I just didn't know about it. So I did what a lot of college students do who don't know what they want to do after they graduate. I went into consulting. So, yeah.
I considered it as well before pivoting to product.
It's the classic, like, you're pretty smart, but you have no idea what to do with your life. So, and actually, I don't know how you felt about it, but I felt like it was a very formative experience. It taught me so much about client service and having empathy for your clients. And I was lucky enough that at the firm that I worked at, this company started their first product team. I became an associate product manager, but I was one of the first PMs ever at the company.
You were probably one of the first APMs. I feel like those types of programs didn't exist back then.
100%. I think Google had it was like the early innings of their APM program. I was probably one of the first APMs back then. One of the things that the company did was we had our own version of 20% time. So there were actually only two types of roles at the company. You were either an engineer or you were a business consultant, and then all other roles were filled by 20% time. So as a new business consultant, you could opt into like doing marketing or doing what they call like product analysts. So I opted into doing marketing and product. And I got fired from the marketing role.
Did you actually?
Yeah, I did. They were like, yeah, you're not very good at this. But the product team or like the engineering team loved having me involved. And I learned how to write requirements. And it was great too, because I was connecting my experience working with clients directly and being a power user of the software to inform the like product work that I was doing. So that was a great like virtuous cycle. And so when I got the opportunity to do this full time, it was like such an obvious yes for me.
Yeah, totally. And having that background makes a lot of sense, because I feel like part of what makes like product managers really successful at their role is like understanding a product inside and out.
100%.
And so it feels like you had that kind of from the get-go, and so you knew to build upon that.
100%. Yeah. Just and the empathy, right? Like to watch your customers use the product, because as consultants we were really like product support in ways. Nowadays I hire a lot of people from the business side of our business and move them into product roles, because I think they develop such an intuition. I see them like basically building product without engineers, right? Like you can see how they set up processes and workflows, and they have this like intuitive product mind and that systems thinking that I think is such an important skill in the types of product that we build. I think some of the best product managers at Carta today have been internal transfers into product.
Yeah, I've heard you say that before, and I think that's actually kind of rare, because I know as I was leaving consulting, like product was an option, but it wasn't typically what people like from my consulting class did after. So I feel like that's a pretty unique hiring perspective you have. We also wanted to ask you about your journey to becoming the CPO of Carta, since I feel like with product, like we were both in consulting before, and it's super clear, like after 1 year you get this promotion, after 3 years you get this promotion. Like how did that work where it's a little bit more undefined?
The one thing to know about having a career at tech startups is your journey is rarely linear, right? Especially as you get more advanced in your career. Henry has actually written a great post about this, originally inspired by Steve Jobs, where he talks about how he evaluates executives, where executives don't get an A for effort. They don't get to keep their jobs because they're trying. They're either effective in their role or they're not. And that's why you see so much executive turnover, I think, in startups and even like at public companies, because it's so much about person problem fit, right? And so you need like both the right person and the right set of problems for them to be able to drive the impact. And then the other thing that's true is like the problem set is changing because the company is growing really rapidly. Reflecting on my own journey, I think when I came to Carta, I was a mid-career product manager, so I was a director level PM. Back then, like we didn't have very established career ladders or anything. So I think I had a probably challenging journey at Carta in my early days where I came in like super ambitious, super focused to like get promoted. I think my ambition got the best of me, but then I had this real reset moment where I was ready to leave Carta. So I was interviewing, I had an offer in hand, and
oh my gosh.
Yeah. So I was getting ready to leave. So I just like stopped caring about getting promoted. But I just started doing my job and like really focusing on the problem at hand. The problem at hand that came across my lap in that moment was what became our fund admin business. And I fell in love with the problem. It was like a matter of 8 weeks. In a matter of 8 weeks, I was like, oh my God, there is something really special here. And there's something really special we can do through software in this business. And so I turned down my Facebook offer, and that became my obsession and my passion. And then everything, like all the other stuff, like promos and stuff, like sort of like took care of.
It like falls into place.
Yeah.
Once you really care about what you're working on.
And honestly, I like cared less about what my title was. The reward for being able to like drive impact, it's like you just know that you are, and that's, I think, more motivation than like some career ladder. And ultimately, the fact that I was able to grow this business from nothing to, I think it was like an $80 million business around the time that Henry offered me the CPO role. He wouldn't have given me that opportunity had I not been able to accomplish that, right. In my time at Carta. And that's what really matters. Now I'm always just like, what is the impact that you want to drive in the world? And as product builders, we have such an opportunity to do that. And that's what we should focus on.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Like when you're less motivated by the work, you start thinking more about like promotions and title because you're searching for meaning and other things because you're not finding it in like your day to day.
Totally.
Yeah. And Annika and I have talked about this as well because both of us were at like larger companies. I was at Microsoft, she was at Bain, and both of us left to join startups.
Yeah.
And I feel like both of us have seen our roles shift so much, and just like the level of ownership you have
100%.
Over something makes you so much more motivated because it really just falls back on you.
And you know, like if as a product person you're not falling in love with the problems that you're working on, you're not working on the right problems, right? So I think that's like really important to work on something that you care about. And by the way, you should measure your growth in terms of how you're learning, not any other external factors. That's the most important thing, especially in early career, but even now as a CPO, right? Like I feel like I'm learning so much. Like the shoes of the CPO are like this big and my feet are like this big right now. And so every day I get to show up to work and look forward to just like learning.
Yeah, that's awesome. I want to back up a bit and eventually get to fund administration, but start with like how Carta started, because I listened to a talk you did where you said like no one in the Valley wanted to fund Carta Series A and they thought it was too small of a problem. And basically the original product was just taking these equity grants you get and they would get like delivered in the mail to you. And I feel like for us,
that's crazy.
Like, unimaginable. And just making it electronic, like literally that wave where like things started to become digitized. Yeah. So I'd love to hear from you, like why no one was willing to, why did no one see like the vision you guys saw? Because in hindsight, like when I think about it, I'm like, obviously like there's parallel things or adjacent things to digitizing equity beyond just that one product.
So cap table management was the first business. At the time, if you looked at the cap table management market, like especially, we weren't the first cap table management software either, right? But if you looked at the size of those companies, it was quite small because they were selling into law firms. So one, you had to believe that cap tables could be a bigger business than it was back then in 2012. And then two, you had to believe that cap tables gave us the right to do all of this other stuff that we ended up doing in the industry. And the original dream, of course, for Henry and the team at the time was building the NASDAQ of private markets. I think that one of the things that Carta did that was groundbreaking at the time, instead of charging the law firms, we charged the companies. We moved the sort of like center of gravity from law firm to company. And that was really, really unlocking because a law firm might pay like some platform fee, but then they get all of their clients on. So like a $60 million Cooley contract is worth $30 million. I think that's like one of the quotes that Henry draws on all the time, which I think is so powerful. So, and so it's like, what is the believability of that pitch? And Silicon Valley did not buy in at the time, and then we found our investors in the East Coast, and I think that makes a lot of sense because ultimately you had to understand the like complexity and nuances of the private markets.
So you just talked about building the NASDAQ of private markets, and that was something that you guys ultimately went on to do with Carta X. I know that was something that was recently shut down, so wanted to get into that a little bit more, and at what point you made that decision that it was time to shut it down.
I thought a lot about this, like why didn't Carta X work? We tried so many versions of the NASDAQ of private markets. We launched an auctions product. We did bilateral trades. We did like controlled tenders. The only version of the product that really worked, and the one that has always worked, was our tender offer product. It was our oldest liquidity product. And the more we tried doing all of these other things, the more people would like evaluate us for all these other things, but end up doing tenders. So,
just like going back to that.
Marketing Carta X just like drove more business to our.
At least you're keeping it within the company.
Yeah, exactly. So all the variations didn't work. I think Henry had formed a perspective that we have tried everything. We have to accept that this does not have product market fit. At least not for now. Like the market's not ready for this. He wrote this great post about it, which was one of the things you're trying to do when you're building these marketplaces is that you're trying to bring transparency into the ecosystem. But the question is, in the private markets and for the participants of the private markets, is opacity a feature or a bug? And I think one of our learnings was the opacity was a feature. It was the like lack of transparency that gave you arbitrage, right?
And are you saying that from, like, just to back up, so how does the tender offer part of the product work? And then what was it that you guys are trying to build? And when you talk about opacity, is that from the perspective of the employer or the employees?
Yeah, so, okay, great question. So, tender offer is it's a product that we sell to companies. The company controls the transaction. They set the price, and they get to decide who's involved. So they go find the investors, and then they find the sellers, so presumably employees of the company or other investors of the company. But the company gets full control over all of it. The variation, like what we were trying to do in Carta X, so for like our first product was an auctions product, where the company could go get the investors, the company could go find sellers, but the price was determined by the auctions product. So like people would put in bids and
It's like
ask,
StockX.
yeah, and then we were doing sort of like the matching algorithm. In sort of all of those variations of the product, the company doesn't get like 100% control. And there's pros and cons. But if you think about the public markets, the companies doesn't get control over their stock price, right? The market decides. So it's a market-driven approach to liquidity. That's the piece of it that I would say, like, we never found product market fit for whatever reason. Either we didn't have enough people on the buy side who were interested, or didn't have enough companies that were willing to put their assets into the marketplace.
Because it's basically like opt-in for a startup being like okay with their employees participating in it.
Some depending on the variation of the product. We tried many variations, but
just like market participation in general was low, essentially.
Exactly. For the secondary buyers, they're trying to find the asset that's well priced that nobody else has access to, right? So by definition, if everybody has access to it, then there's no arbitrage
opportunity. Yeah,
exactly.
Interesting. Yeah, that makes sense. I feel like I could see down the line there being like a version of that product still. Like, I'm sure it's inevitable. Like, I feel like finance always ends up getting more democratized. Yeah. I recently saw like Clay is doing like a community offering of their equity. I don't know if you guys saw that, but yeah, it just kind of made me think of that.
I think so too. I think there will be like more and more like innovation around this, and I hope there is. I think even if Carta isn't doing it, I think that it's something the ecosystem needs, and I think we're like very supportive of that.
Is the door still open? Do you think there's a chance that Carta would go down that path again?
Not for now.
Okay.
I think we're pretty focused on our next thing, which we can talk about, and I'm really excited about.
So, what is the next big thing, and where is Carta going?
One of the things about Carta, getting to build the NASDAQ of private markets, one of the things we realized we needed to do was build all of the infrastructure around it, right? So we had to become the transfer agent for companies so that we are the system of record for who owns what. We had a few early products for investors that didn't find product market fit. I built some of those products, but eventually we built fund admin. We got into the fund admin business, and that's where things took off, right? There was almost instant message market fit in the fund admin business. And I think it really centered around this idea that Carta was the source of truth. If Carta already had cap tables, this makes so much sense for Carta to also own the general ledger and really marry those two systems of record to each other. And so we got early and strong buy-in from the market. Like, I think we had $12 million of fund admin sales before we actually started to build the product for fund admin, which is incredible. I don't think we've ever seen a product like that at Carta. So that was really cool to be at like the inception of that. And I didn't have to guess like that. I think that was a really privileged position for a product builder. Mm-hmm. I already had tons of clients to learn from because the way we did it, we actually stood up a services team, and they did fund admin like anyone else would do fund admin using Excel, but I got to learn from them. And I think that was such a huge advantage for me as I was getting started thinking through what is the future of this business. So after Carta X shut down, Henry, the sort of genesis of this idea actually came from a conversation between Henry and Mark Andreessen. And Henry was like, we have this like incredible business in fund admin, and this is what we're doing, and we have all these other products around it. And it's really cool because it's not just a standalone business, it's connected to the cap table, and here's how it's connected. And so Mark looks at it and he's like, oh, you're building the NetSuites of private capital. And that was the light bulb moment, because that was exactly it. We were building the NetSuites of private capital in a way that has never existed before. There isn't an ERP for private capital that is multi-node, because private capital is multi-node. You have the companies, you have the investors, and you have the investors of the investors, the LPs. And I am so excited about this vision, because I think we have an incredible foundation already. We have a really established cap table business. We have over 50% of the market share there, which gives us such an advantage when we're building differentiated product for investors. We have a great start in venture fund administration, and increasingly we're breaking into private equity. So we also started doing private equity. So P-backed LLC, so not just C Corp equity administration, but LLC. So dentist shops and hair salons that have fractal ownership problems. We started also building for them about
maybe our podcast one day.
Yeah, maybe your podcast one day. Your LLC will have a Carta cap table. A lot of PE is investing in LLC assets or partnership assets. So we're at the beginning of creating this next flywheel so our first flywheel was between corporations, venture-backed C Corps and investors. And I think this second flywheel is with these partnership assets, these LLC operating companies and P firms. So we're doing the same thing, equity management on the company side and fund administration on the PE side, with this host of ancillary products that creates this differentiated and connected experience for private capital. Yeah.
Totally. So there's all of these different products that you've been building and exploring. Another thing that's been, I think, top of mind for everyone at all companies is AI. And I'm curious how Carta's thinking about AI, both from an internal perspective of making the workforce more efficient, but also building it into your product.
Yeah, I think, so one of the things about AI, I think AI, it will be commoditized. What AI can do will be commoditized, right? Everybody will be able to read documents. Everybody, there's no IP in the AI. The big companies will own the IP in the AI. It's the application that gets interesting. And so I think the winners in this market are the people who have the data and the ability to do something with that data, which thankfully, I think we check both boxes. We have
so much data.
Yeah, we have so much data. We have so many companies on Carta. We have a large percentage of market share of venture-backed companies, and increasingly of venture capital funds, and then soon private equity funds. We have tons of documents. I think one of the central sources of truth in private capital is a contract, whether it's an LLC operating agreement or a limited partnership agreement, or the investment docs, right? SPA, articles of incorporation. All of these documents are actually the true source of truth for private capital, and we capture all of those documents because of the workflows that Carta supports, right? So we have millions and millions of documents on Carta, and I think we are now rebuilding our document management system to be AI native. So we're automatically tagging documents and increasingly extracting data from documents to power workflows. But that's the other part of the equation. We also own all of the workflows. So we can acquire documents, so we can extract the data, and we can put the data into work in the workflows that we're building. So really excited about that piece, and that's foundational. I think it's not super differentiated. I think a lot of companies are doing that. We just have the data. The second part about this is, Benioff has been talking a lot about agentic workflows, and then everybody's talking about agentic workflows, right? So but I think that this is really exciting. I think our CTO, Will Larson, has been doing a lot of thinking around this. But I do think for businesses that have like large coordination and orchestration problems, it is such a game changer, right? Like, how can we use AI agents to do like client follow up and sort of like personalized client service and based on like context that we have that is client specific. So I think our first version of this, where we're building agents to help us like resolve what we call health checks, which is like we've written a bunch of health checks in our accounting platform that make sure this number matches this number, and so we're figuring out how to use signals in the network to find problems proactively for our clients, which is cool. That's step one. But if you can get AI agents to then automatically resolve the discrepancies, that's really powerful. So that's step one. But I'm like really excited about, okay, like then what? What else can we do? And I think the future of agents is really bright in the world and in Carta.
And while we're on the topic of AI, looking at the rest of the equity management industry, and like it seems like you guys are like a clear leader, and I'm just curious, like if there's do you see there being like more competition down the line, or do you think that like there's something about your guys' technical moat that means that there won't be that many competitors long term?
I mean, I think there's been a ton of copycat companies, but you know, I try not to worry about competition. I try to just like focus on the customer problem at hand.
And then when you think about I know you guys talk about like the right to win and like winning the right to win in new areas. So would you say that right now where you're like winning the right to win is more like venturing from like venture where this like product started to like more like PE or like other types of customers, as opposed to winning the right for a whole nother product?
Yeah, I think our right to win right now is in private equity, taking the foundation of what we built in venture capital and extending it to scale for the complexity of private equity. I also think the value that we can create in private equity is actually greater than in venture capital because of the complexity. So the connected nature of the platform. One of like the design principles I have for the product managers and the designers is never enter data twice. So one of the problems in our space is when a thing happens in the accounting world, you have to like go to like so many different systems to update, to record that the thing happened. You have to like update the LP's version of the dashboard and the GP's version of the dashboard and like your internal Excel spreadsheet, and like there's a lot of like multiple entry of data. But as we're bringing these sources of truth into the ERP with shared foundational data models, the idea that you can like do a thing, but you only have to do it once, it's pretty cool for venture capital. Absolutely effing game changer for private equity. It's unheard of. Like private equity just accepted that they're going to live in this world of hurt, which, you know, I'm so excited to like bring them into the modern era.
How do you think about like tone? Like I know we talked about on our intro call even like Carta's confetti moment that has become like so universal to the point that I feel like people associate confetti with Carta.
Yeah.
And so I'm just curious about like how you guys create moments of delight with customers and how that differs like product to product as well.
That's funny. It used to be my like party introduction. Like I work at Carta. You might know us for the company with the confetti emails. So I love saying that. The confetti moment at Carta has a lot of lore behind it too. I think it first came about because Henry was like in a product review and we were like, yeah, and then you click a button and accept the security, and he's like, and that's it? Like
This is a big deal.
This is a big deal. We created an owner, right? Like that's
You're
the
getting
mission.
rich.
Yeah, this is the mission of the company: create more owners. Like we should celebrate this moment. So I think one of the designers maybe, found this like like open source, like confetti GIF thing that we put into the product. And then like people have like at one point the confetti was like blue and white because it should have been Carta branded. So the confetti has gone through a lot of like refactoring at Carta. So but I do think that like that idea of like bringing delight into subject matter that is like traditionally like mundane. Like whoever thought like cap tables was a sexy product? By definition, cap tables is not a sexy product, but somehow I think Carta made it sexy. Like now you're like, oh, it's like the confetti company. And then we have all of these other companies who are now trying to be cap table management companies. I'm like, but why? Like it is one of the unsexiest problems in the world. But that's, I think, a big part of our brand. We fall in love with unsexy problems, and then we just try to put a little bit of sparkle into the user experience so that we're making it delightful.
Yeah, I feel like B2B brands in general have become so much more willing to do like moments of delight, or like, I don't know, toe the line a little bit more. Or even like, I feel like so many companies have copied the confetti. Like whenever I get my Rippling payday email,
the Rippling payday.
They have like the same confetti now. So it's very cool that it kind of sparked this trend.
They have like a new dancing animal. Every 2 weeks, there's like something new that I'm seeing.
But it is kind of exciting. Like every 2 weeks, I know I'm going to get paid. But when I get the Rippling email, I'm like happy anyways. I'm like, oh.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So we're doing a new segment on our podcast. We're going to do some rapid fire hot seat questions with you. So to start it off, we wanted to ask, is there a PM stereotype that you either agree with or that you want to debunk?
I think one, the PM told me to ship it. Like the product wasn't good enough, but the PM told me like blame the PM. And I think this PM stereotype I'd like to debunk is that PMs don't care about quality. I think we deeply care about quality. Well, if you're a PM, like take ownership of quality and sort of like the polishing touches of your product. I think, depending on the stage of the product, like speed is a really important thing. But like the final touches matter too. So I do think PMs care, and I think that
Yeah, totally. And then we also wanted to ask you, being part of the overall like fintech industry, is there a trend you're either excited about or you think is overhyped?
I'm actually really fascinated about the future of accounting in the world of AI. Like there's so many companies, more than ever, I think I'm seeing sort of like this emergence of this like next generation of accounting and FP&A companies powered by AI. And I'm really excited about that. I think we're sort of doing the same, but in private capital. But the more that we can sort of automate this accounting piece, the more we are empowering these finance teams to be strategic, right? And so that's, I think, a really exciting trend, and the one that I still don't understand, crypto. Like I'm just,
Yeah, no, that's fair. We've covered it a few times on the podcast, and every time we go into it, I feel like there's like a new layer or base layer, no pun intended.
I've really tried to like
get into it,
believe it, but I just don't.
That makes sense.
No, that's really fair.
What's one piece of advice that you have for PMs that are early in career?
Stay curious. I think don't worry about titles and promos and all of that. Just get really curious, learn, go deep, and solve problems. Focus on solving problems, and everything else will come.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, but I wanted to ask, since you're like one of the CPOs that is very down to hire people that weren't previously PMs, but were in adjacent fields, what's your advice to people looking to pivot into PM? Because I feel like there are a lot of people in like ops or sales that want to pivot into product.
I think that like, one, like, let people know that you're interested, but I don't think like you should let not having the title of product manager stop you. there's this great video. We have like everyone at Carta watch it. Jeff Lawson did this talk called Software People. Highly recommend. It's in it. He talks about like how software people view the world versus how like not software people view the world. But I think the real like takeaway there is like you don't have to be in engineering, product, or design to think like a software person. A software person believes they can use technology to create unlocks in the world, right? But there's so many tools available to you. There's like, you can do really interesting stuff with even Excel. So always think like a software person, continue to innovate, and AI now, like continue to think about the ways you can automate your job. You can create differentiated value for the business, for your teams, for your customers. And people are going to recognize that, right? I think like the best way to show people that you have the skills to be a product manager is just start doing the job from the seat that you're in.
I know Priya was telling me I could code an app yesterday.
Yeah, because I was using Sonnet 3.7 yesterday, and I haven't coded since college. It's like not something I do.
It's incredible.
And it's crazy what you can do.
Yeah.
I built a virtual closet organizer.
It's crazy what you can do. Now all my clothes are online. That's our
amazing.
big problem.
I want to use your virtual closet organizer.
That's what
I could really use
said
that
too.
It took like 2 prompts. Like I actually think anyone can learn how to do it.
It's
now.
incredible.
And then our last hot seat question was, having both went to Berkeley, I feel like we heard about Mission San Jose lore all the time. So we wanted to ask what it was like going to school there and growing up in the Bay and then having stayed here for so long.
Well, let me start with being in the Bay, especially in San Francisco. I think one of the incredible things about growing up here is that you are living in the future, right? And I feel like it's such a privilege. This will never get old. Like every time I see a Waymo, I'm just like, I was talking to my husband. I'm like, did you ever grow up thinking you would see autonomous cars in your lifetime? And he's like, I don't know if I ever thought about it, but I think it's just so incredible, like the amount of innovation that we're surrounded by, and like we're at the like forefront of AI and like even crypto that I don't understand, but like so being at the sort of like being at the bleeding edge of technology and what the future holds for us, I think is just so inspiring. And so similarly, I grew up in the Bay Area. Both of my parents were engineers, so just like that experience was formative. And we were here in the 90s. Through the .com boom and bust, right? Like, so I lived through that. So I'm sort of used to there being like these cycles of like ups and downs. But in the end, like technology will always move the world forward. And like, that's been such a foundational part of my core beliefs and why I love what I do so much. I love where I am and what I do. So obviously like, the Silicon Valley growing up has been a formative experience, and then Mission San Jose. Yes, I think it's a great high school, very high caliber talent. It's also intense. There's like good and bad. I think there was a lot of pressure to perform in academics, and I don't know if I'm not a person who responds well to pressure, so I didn't like love how competitive it was, but at the same time, I got to be around people who were really smart and inspiring, and I like that part. And then I found my sort of like corner of the universe that I got really into. So I was in this organization called DECA. I was a DECA nerd, DECA queen back in the day, and I found the thing that I was really excited about and I was going to get like really good at. And that was the thing. Like you found people who are sort of like the best of the best at what they do. And like everyone had this like incredible drive, and like that is infectious. Right. And so I think there's sort of like good and bad of going to a school that was that competitive, but it certainly had a big influence on my life.
Yeah.
That totally makes sense, because I feel like that's kind of a similar experience that we had at Berkeley as well. Well,
yeah.
Where obviously there's the good and the bad, but you find your people.
Yeah.
It is inspiring. I feel like a lot of the reason I have been pushed to like be in tech and like be a PM and do all the things that I'm doing now are because of like the people that I've seen.
Absolutely.
And so it is just an awesome environment that can't really be replicated very
100%.
many places.
Yeah. So very grateful for my high school experience. And then, I'm sure it was similar at Berkeley.
Yeah. Yeah, speaking of autonomous vehicles and like growing up in the Bay, my first interaction with Maya, who grew up in the Bay, but like I'm from Minnesota, so like autonomous vehicles to me, I was like, whoa. It was like back when people used to take cruises, and I think it was our first or second time that me and Maya met, and she was like, oh, I'll just like cruise you home for free. I was on the wait list so early that they don't even charge me. Wow. And for this extended period of time, like until she got banned, Maya literally didn't get charged for any of her cruise rides, and she was just like Ubering people around. So
that's
yeah,
awesome.
it's always, I'm always curious like what the next like cool technology will be, or like when people from out of town come and you like put them in a Waymo, they're like so taken aback, and you kind of forget that it's not like universal.
It's not
yet.
normal. Yeah. No, it's really cool. I think we're very, very lucky to get to witness all of that.
Yes, definitely. Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
This was a pleasure, and we're excited to see everything that Carta does.
Thank you. Thank you.